Johnny Carson and Late Night with David Letterman will be seen in their entirety 10 minutes from now, so that we may bring you this NBC News Special. Here is NBC News correspondent Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. The bizarre siege of the Washington Monument still has not officially ended 14 hours after it began. Here's the situation. At 9:30 Eastern Time this morning, a man dressed in a cold weather suit and a motorcycle helmet seized the base of the monument, saying that he would detonate 1,000 pounds of TNT unless there were a national dialogue on the dangers of nuclear war. Tonight he tried to drive away. He was shot by federal authorities. Federal officials believe that another man, who was an accomplice, fled into the monument and is now trapped at the top of the 555-foot spire. Whether he is there, we don't know. But a special tactics team has moved into the monument with dogs, special equipment, and a hostage negotiator. One man, however, is dead, shot as he tried to escape. That is the man that we saw all day on national television, dressed in the motorcycle helmet and in the snowmobile suit. We have standing by now at the Washington Monument, as he has been all night long, NBC News correspondent James Polk. Jim, is there any question about whether or not there, in fact, is a man at the top of the monument?
There is considerable question whether there is a second man still holed up in the Washington Monument. But police tell me that at the time the man in the helmet tried to drive the van away, one officer saw what he thought was a second man enter the base of the Washington Monument just as the van began to leave. So they're operating on the assumption that there may be a second man and that there may still be explosives in the Washington Monument. About 1 hour ago, police began working their way up step by step. There are almost 1,000 steps to the top of the Washington Monument, which is the equivalent of 55 stories high. They're about halfway. So far, they found no man, they found no explosives, but it will be at least another hour before they know. The police have tentatively identified the man who was killed, the man in the helmet, as a 66-year-old anti-nuclear war activist originally from the Miami Beach area in Florida, Norman Maier. He was shot in the face by police as he tried to drive north away from the Washington grounds in the direction of the White House. Police had made the decision much earlier in the day that if the man tried to leave with a van that he had said was filled with 1,000 pounds of TNT, that would be what one officer called a moving time bomb, and they shot at least to disable. They did shoot, in effect, to kill. In the end, however, police have removed most of the packages they found in the van, apparently all of them now, and they have found no explosives. This entire day's drama that has now ended in at least one death may have been a bluff.
Thank you, James Polk, and we should point out as well that no second man was seen all day long in the vicinity of the Washington Monument, although police believe that there may have been a second man inside the van at the time. Well, this man, now tentatively identified as 66-year-old Norman Maier, patrolled the base of the monument, dressed in that unusual outfit, a snowmobile suit, and a motorcycle helmet with the visor pulled down. It was a dramatic and, as I say, a bizarre day. Let's get a recounting of this day now from NBC News correspondent David Hazinski.
The helmeted man in the cold weather suit had had his way most of the day. Police had no choice but to believe his threat that the van he had parked at the base of the Washington Monument contained 1,000 pounds of explosives. Explosives he said he could detonate from the electronic equipment in his backpack. By late afternoon, police finally had an idea of what he wanted, why he had put the monument under siege.
As an act of sanity, ban nuclear weapons or have a nice doomsday.
Police thought they were in for a long negotiating session and had made plans to reroute morning rush hour traffic away from the memorial when the helmeted man in the cold weather suit got into the van, started the engine, and backed away from the monument. Police opened fire on the van and tried to stop it from getting away.
To take that vehicle into an area of the city which could be occupied by numbers of people, maybe not involved in this particular incident, but to protect them in our community, I think it was necessary to do so.
The van overturned on the north side of the monument and lay on its side. Police approached cautiously, presuming that the threat had been real and the van was filled with explosives. So far, officers have found none.
I cannot say the explosion danger is over inside the Washington Monument.
What about
the explosion danger is over, to the best of my knowledge, in the monument ground.
But the drama didn't end with the van. An officer thought he saw someone leave the van and enter the monument itself. Special teams moved in and started a search. They believe the second person is hiding on the top floor of the monument. The shots that had stopped the truck had struck the driver in the face. Police say he was pronounced dead on the scene. David Hazinski, NBC News, Washington.
And as we said earlier, that truck was registered to 66-year-old Norman Mayer of Miami Beach, Florida, a man who in recent months has been seen on picket lines outside the White House protesting nuclear weapons. He established while he was working in Florida something called #1 priority. His #1 priority: to end all nuclear weapons, to ban nuclear war and the dangers of nuclear war. In California tonight, in Los Alamitos, California, Norman Mayer's brother, if in fact he is the man, Norman Mayer's brother is Aubrey Mayer. And he talked with NBC News correspondent George Lewis about his brother.
He's single. He's never been married. He's 66 years of age. He has had various jobs in the as a miner, oil rigger. The last job that I know he had was as a sanitary engineer. He had founded an organization, an anti-nuclear organization in Miami Beach, which is called, I think, #1 priority, something like whatever his license plate says. He is a highly opinionated individual, very intelligent, not educated, but very intelligent. I don't think he's capable of doing physical damage to anybody unless they violate him. If he has done this, he has thoroughly thought it out and knows or knew what the ramifications would be, one way or the other. He's very sane. I don't think there's anything mentally wrong with him whatsoever. And somebody's just probably pushed him too far in this particular instance. And he's decided, well, the only way he's going to get anything done is to make a big issue.
Well, in fact, if it was Norman Mayer, he did make a very big issue of it all. Here's the scene right now at the Washington Monument at this hour, as federal authorities believe that they still have a second man trapped at the top of the 555-foot spire. A helicopter has been in the area, we are told, broadcasting on a loudspeaker for the man to come out. We thought earlier that we may have seen a figure in that right-hand window. However, upon closer examination, it could just be a shadow from those blinking airplane guidance lights that are at the top of the spire. The Washington Monument, if you're familiar with the nation's capital, of course, is right in the flight pattern from the Washington National Airport. So, unless there is a second man, we may not know the answer to the very big question tonight. Why did this man, apparently and tentatively identified as Norman Mayer, a man interested in world peace, choose such a violent way to dramatize it? One of his friends said that in recent months, Norman Mayer told him he was prepared to bring down an icon. He did not bring down an icon. Tonight, instead, he died in the darkness of the grounds of the Washington Monument. Now, that's the story as we know it at this hour. We'll have further details on NBC News overnight. I'm Tom Brokaw, NBC News, New York.
This has been an NBC News Special.